Welcome back to Chatbox Chronicles. Join us as we dive into the world of motherhood, shine a spotlight on local businesses, and celebrate the beauty of life.
Let's chat, connect, and inspire each other on this wonderful journey called life.
Yeah. All right. Welcome back, you guys. I'm really proud of us. This is number 6.
I think so. We started like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Look at us.
And we're just like trucking along and doing this every Tuesday. I know that it's kind of just raw and not too edited, but hopefully along the way we'll be able to improve in that. But I think it's going really great.
I think so too.
Really proud of us.
I've had a lot of fun so far.
Me too.
Yeah. Because one thing about me and Elyse is we both really love to talk. So the whole let's talk about it thing is like watching it actually unfold and just having really a lot of fun with it, and like bringing up these topics that like you want to have conversations about or you want to listen about, but you just don't,
right,
you just like don't have the time or whatever. Like us like making the time now, it's like really refreshing because I'm like, we can have these good conversations now and actually talk about it. So
I'm excited to see what continues to come from it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Alrighty, and so today we decided to go into modeling, since that kind of is what brought us together, and we both have very different journeys. It's not like we went off to be like successful models or anything, but that was like a part of our journey in our life. So we just have some unique perspectives. We also were mainly in the scene back around 2008. And we've done stuff, and even to this day we'll do things here and there, but it's not like our main job title. That's like the only thing, but it's gonna be fun. We're gonna talk kind of about the evolution of the modeling industry, how we balance modeling with our education and careers and all of the things that come from your early 20s, the challenges that were faced by modeling, peer pressure, and sometimes unrealistic expectations, and the negativity that could come in that modeling space. And then the importance of self-confidence and boundaries in modeling, and finding purpose and creative expression through modeling. So we have a couple of prompts that we're going to go through and ask each other and kind of dive into what all modeling was for us.
Right. Awesome. Should we get started?
All right. So first off, can you elaborate, Lelah, on your early experiences in modeling, and how old were you when you started?
Awesome. Well, I started modeling also whenever I was around 18. It was a really good experience at first. I began by doing like local small gigs and runway shows and things like that, gradually building my portfolio over the years and confidence in front of the camera. It was a time of learning, growth, and self-discovery as I navigated the competitive world of modeling. So at first it was very fun, and then a lot of like competitiveness came about. And then on the other hand of modeling, what really sparked me even starting to do any kind of modeling was the fact that I got back on stage again in the pageantry world. So obviously I was that little girl who, whenever I was 3, I was winning all the titles because I would get up there and just steal the stage, I guess, basically. But then whenever I was about 4, I think I got up there in my gown and I did the Macarena. And we had like this talent portion, and like I had a rifle and some like hunting overalls on, and I had like the thumper like from Bambi, the little rabbit stuffed animal, and I had him on stage, and like I was hunting, but then I was just like see him and like pick him up and rescue him. Well, I shot him on stage.
I can see Roxanne doing that. Sorry, y'all.
Yes, and then I got out there in my dress portion, and you're supposed to like, flaunt your pretty dress, and I started doing the Macarena, and like my family's like, okay, no. It's time to take her out of this. So I did not do pageants for my entire life until I turned 18 again.
Okay.
Well, actually at 16, I did a high school pageant. And then 18, I decided to just go all in, and I did the Miss USA system. So I went from doing no pageants at all to going into one of the biggest pageantry systems in the entire universe. Like Miss USA owns Miss Universe. And so it was a really big deal. But that's really when I started getting into modeling, because I kind of had to do some modeling things that, while I had those titles and things like that. So
yeah, awesome.
And how about you? Can you elaborate on your early experience in modeling?
So for me, like growing up, I was not in pageants. I didn't even really know about that world, honestly. And like when I was in school, I was always in plays though. Also like a lead character in every single play. first grade through, yeah. I think that went all the way up until maybe first through fourth grade. And then fifth grade and sixth grade, like, I think we did like a little bit. And then seventh grade, I started cheerleading and stuff. And I don't really know what switched. I went to a small private school and we kind of had a little bit of theater, but we didn't even really have a theater class. So I don't know, but at some point something happened to where I hated like getting up in front of humans and get up in front of the class to do a presentation. My voice would do the like, so I ended up hating talking and stuff.
Public speaking.
Cheerleading was fine because you're with a group of girls and we're all saying the same thing. But like, yeah, when it was individual and it was like all on
when it was all on you.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know who that girl was that was like up in front of the stage, like singing and doing everything. But anyway, so then like when I was 15, that's when like Barbizon was like a big thing and it was coming around. And my mom took me to one of those because like I
Tell
wanted
me you did not do Barbizon.
No, we didn't sign. My mom knew from the get-go it was a scam. She was like, okay, you know, all those women are like telling you like all of these things and they're like taking your pictures and they're like doing all this stuff and you're like as a girl like kind of confused and you're like, well, they're giving you all of these successful stories. Like, why not? Like, I could.
Then you're like mad at your mom because you're like, what are you saying?
Yeah, I was like confused by her. I was just like, I don't understand what's going on here. But anyway, and then this was also, I hadn't gotten my Invisalign yet. So like the next year I got Invisalign, kind of helped my confidence. And then by the time I was a senior, and I kind of like, you know, everyone in your life that you have in your life influences you, and there was things going on in like home life and stuff that was weird, and I would get into boyfriend relationships sometimes that like, it was like so confusing navigating all of that when you're young and like you're trying to figure out what you want to do career-wise, and then you have all these people telling you like, oh, you can model, but like boys don't like that when their girlfriend goes and poses in front of a camera for some reason sometimes, and those guys kept getting in my life. I did have photographers that continually like would reach out to me, and I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I was like 18, so I finally like got in front of the camera, and then more and more were just reaching out to me, and I was like doing local campaigns around here. I was in fashion shows. I was on billboards. There was campaigns that we did. It was a lot of fun, but like again, I was in school. I started college at the same time, and then navigating like, humans that were in my life and just like trying to figure it all out, and then like also be the good Christian girl because it was hard. Like, most of my family weren't trying to help me pursue that as a career because they were telling me that would you want to like why blah blah blah, and it was just a lot. We'll probably get into more of that later, but yeah. So that was like my rocky journey of it, and like getting
the start of it.
Yeah, getting started at a wee little young age.
Well, I did not know that you did plays.
Yeah,
it is so fun to find that out because you know I also did.
Yeah,
obviously, I mean, look at where I am today.
Yes.
But I was always on stage my entire life, and you know, my parents would get hate from people. They'd be like, "Why are you taking her over there to do?" You know, these theater shows. It's like it was me and a few kids, but it was mostly adults, you know, because adults are the ones who are into the theater, and she's like, she just loves it, you know. So yeah, I was on stage my entire life. So I guess like yeah, by the time I did the pageantry and stuff, I'm like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
But I would say like mine was a little bit opposite in that spectrum because I was raised in a Christian household too, but like I am thankful. My grandparents and my mom and stuff were they just loved anything that had to do with arts or anything like that. Like my mom and my aunt were both majorettes. And like, it's like, we always do like the odd things, you know what I mean? Like they're both majorettes. Like my aunt, she even was an FSU majorette. She got chosen out of like 200 people. Only like 3 people were chosen and she was one of them.
Right.
And then like with me, with like the plays and stuff, and then like so when I started getting into modeling, the pageantry stuff, they were all in it. Aww. So that was really good because it could have been that way. Yeah. Like it could have been like, oh no, you're not getting in front of a camera. Yeah. You know, but they were all for it, so I am thankful for that.
My sister was a majorette too. That's cool.
I can't twirl a baton for my life. But like my mom and aunt are up there just like, I'm talking about fire and all. I'm like, I can't even twirl a baton. Cool. Like
I would be the girl that turned the fire on for her and like went back.
You're that girl. How cute.
But I did like figure out how to, and I'll baton twirl a golf club now.
I can't do it. You would think that it would be hereditary because both of them are just so good, but no, I can't do it.
So many things going through my brain.
We're also like bringing it back, and it's a subject that we haven't like talked about in a long time, probably.
Yeah,
like because you don't just talk about these things,
right,
in passing. So it's like trying to like remember things too,
Mhm.
like that come to your brain.
Right. Yeah. So a good thing to say is when I was 18, that was 2008. So like YouTube had just kind of started. There was no makeup tutorials really. I think the first person, honestly, like her name was like Gina, and I think it was around 2008, like when YouTube first came, and she did the first like makeup tutorial. But like honestly, you weren't like, all we were looking for online was funny videos, like literally like cats singing,
cat
funny
videos.
things to laugh at, which is basically what TikTok is now. But you know, well, I'm sure young kids do, besides like they also add dancing into it. But anyway, we just were looking up comedy. That's all we were looking up back in the day. And so we didn't have like free tutorials on how to do our makeup right, how to pose. Pinterest wasn't a thing. I had zero social media. I remember kind of uploading a little bit on MySpace. And my name on MySpace was Hannah Doll because my first name is Hannah. And I remember the first time I got recognized, like out and about, like when we were like probably at Walmart or something silly, like, and someone was like, "Is that Hannah Doll?" And my mom, like, will to this day never forget. She brings it up all the time because my mom wants to always forever call me Hannah, and so like for some reason she's like, "Because you're Hannah Doll."
You're so famous now. At Walmart. I loved it.
My MySpace name, yeah, back then when you did like the roar and like the X and the
yes. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so like we didn't have a online portfolio. It was definitely, you have to look good 100% naturally, and you can't have scars, you can't have tattoos, you can't have wild hair. I worked for Abercrombie for a little bit, and my job title there was model because we just kind of stood around, and you had to wear plain clothes, and they had to be blue, gray, or navy. You had, like, there was just all these, like, crazy requirements, and, like, you had to be a certain age. Like, even for your hair, if you had curly hair, it could not be crunchy. Like, you had to make sure it looked like you just got it, like this, basically.
Like out from the beach.
Yeah, you just got up, and I did just, like, I went to sleep with my hair wet. That's how we've accomplished this today. Back in the day, they taught you to like crunch your hair up. So like, if girls did that, they were like, "But no, you're not doing that here at Abercrombie." There's just like a lot of stipulations and a lot of ways that you had to look. Your makeup had to be a certain way. It was not as accepting as today's age is. I feel like today you can have so much variety of like models, and back then it was very specific. There wasn't much, like even in Victoria's Secret, like there wasn't much diversity there, and now they're doing such a big diversity campaign, and they're kind of like revamping themselves, which is great. I'm really happy that we have come such a long way, but it was very hard back in the day, and it was hard to like navigate. I don't know, because sometimes when people start giving me too many stipulations, I get kind of like, no, like rebellious or whatever. I'm like, ain't gonna do it. Right. And so I did eventually get my first tattoo, and I did eventually start not caring because it wasn't like my number one priority was to be a model in life. So I was like, I'm not gonna let be my ultimate factor of why I do or don't do things. But yeah, it was weird navigating as a young 20-something.
Well, yeah, since you're talking about that already, I think that's like question number 3. So you want to just skip to that and just go ahead and go into it?
Yeah.
Okay. So then number 3, the question was, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced regarding body image? Since you were already kind of talking about that. So what were some of your challenges? Obviously the tattoos.
Yeah. And one time I did go to an audition, and because I had surgery on my knee, and I have you can't really see it, but you can see it. It's a nice little scar across my knee. And they were like, "What is that?" Literally did this whole, like, made me feel like there was something wrong with me. And because my knee kind of like bulges out a little, just a tiny bit, like when I have my knees bent. Because of that, it was Osgood-Schlatter disease, but they were like, "Okay, sorry, but you can't walk in the show today." And it was just like weird, like that was like little weird things like that that made you feel so odd. Also because of some of the boyfriends that I did choose to have back then. I had one guy, and like thankfully I never had an eating disorder, but there's plenty of people that put things in my head that could have pushed me down that path. However, thankfully, I never, like, I love food too much. And I hate getting headaches. And if I don't eat, I get headaches, and, like, just not going to happen. But anyway, but one ex-boyfriend, he told me I needed to eat my food in front of a mirror without clothes on. And whenever I saw myself bloating, that's when I just need to stop. And I just need to drink coffee only in the morning, black coffee, which I do drink black coffee, but not because of that. But
I was about to say, I'm like,
he was like, because of like the extra whatever that, but I just like black coffee. I'm just a crazy person. But anyway, so like, drink black coffee, only drink water, like all of the things, but that you feel like are like healthy, that then they would like totally disguise that as like healthy.
Right.
And it was hard to, because sometimes you would hear people like, oh, I'm only eating like, literally rabbit food, and like I couldn't survive like that, and I know I'm eating more, but people are treating me like I'm eating rabbit food, and then I'm like, but people are eating rabbit food out there, and they did look healthy. Like, I mean, one girl that modeled, we did a lot of runway shows together, and she's well known, and she said like at 7 p.m. every day she stopped eating, like she would not eat after 7 p.m. And apparently, like, people said like, oh yeah, that's healthy for you, like, but like all of that stuff was like kind of confusing because everyone's got different schedules and different things that they're doing, and so there's different ways to be healthy, and it's not like every single person needs to stop eating at 7 p.m. And every single person needs to do the same thing. But back then it was kind of hard to decipher all of that. And I'm sitting there wondering, like at 9 p.m. when I'm eating a bowl of peanuts and they're 600 calories, and I'm sitting there just eating away with my soda, and I'm like, should I be doing this?
7:30 now.
Yeah. I'm like, oh no. So yeah, it was just like, I don't know, kind of all of that. When I was younger, I had the biggest issue was my teeth. People would make so much fun of it before I got like the Invisalign. So then after that, people like nitpicking you on your body and like just how big you are, how big you're not, because like your body does fluctuate. Like my boobs have changed so much. I've taken off weight, and it's all been just because of life. And sometimes life is a lot. I don't know, when people are just judging you about it and they're not coming at you with a loving place and they're just like saying rude comments, even like, oh my God, you're tiny. Like, I hated all of that. Like, it was all just so frustrating and overwhelming because they're not talking to you out of place of love. So then if you respond back to that, like, you just shut up, then like you're still the problem. And like all of the, like, I hated everything like extra. And so many people thought that you just were confident. Even like my modeling pictures, when like I did start getting more and more into modeling, there was a group of girls that made a hashtag and they would post on Instagram 2012 of like just going in on me, just being rude about things. And I have thought about like obviously getting lip fillers and stuff because they like made fun of my lips and stuff, but thankfully I haven't yet. Maybe one day I will still. Like I've always said, like, who knows if I will or won't. I do not make fun of people that get it done. However, I have not done it, but it has been something that has like you think about when you're like, blah, because that happened to me when I was younger. And the reason why I kind of like have been rebellious to not do it was because like the only reason why I really want to do it is because of those stupid girls, and like they're not going to win. It's just not going to happen. They really did not matter. And hopefully this maybe will be, unless like my daughter Roxanne, we got these girls are bullying her one day. But I hope I don't really have to ever talk about that situation ever again. I don't really like talking about it just because like,
well, obviously.
Yeah, but sometimes like I think about all that crap. So like it always affects you. So if you ever do shit online and you're being rude to somebody, just think about it for real.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, there's like, what's the point? Like there's no point to be rude or to go out of your way if you feel threatened by somebody. But anyway, so for you, what were some of your biggest challenges that you faced regarding body image?
Well, I think like obviously the same things that, you had to face. And I think that also like because of the time that it was and it was so different then as compared to now, I feel like we just kind of just did what we were told.
Mm-hmm.
It was like like you said, like they were just making it come off as, oh, this is healthy and this is how it should be and this is just the way.
Right.
And like in modeling, it was very like, you need to do this, look like this, and there are no questions about it. It's just the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have to be this size, and they try to make it as, oh, well, you got to be this size to fit in all of these, to fit in these things or whatever for the runway and all of that. So they try to make it seem, you have to be this size because of the gowns that we're providing you or whatnot.
Right.
But like, really, it's a stipulation, because honestly, like now, I look at and I'm like, we wear gowns for a living, for the job that I do, and I'm like, we can, even though like they're laced, most of them are laced up, even the ones that aren't, even if we have completely different body weights and types, an array of us can fit in the same gown,
right?
And so like looking back on it, it's like. And like one of my main things was I was never tall enough technically on paper for runway, but I was long enough.
Oh, great.
So I was able to walk the runway. But it was constantly in my face about my height.
Right.
My height. But you put me up there with all those girls, and I look the same length as them.
Oh, crazy.
But why is it such a, matter of fact thing on paper?
Right.
And it was such like only like 5'6".
Oh, okay. I was 5'8". Well, I'm 5'8.5", but like some people, I swear some people had a half off ruler because some people would say, oh, she's just 5'8", and I would be like, I'm so fucking glad I'm 5'8.5" at least, because like, like if I was like,
I know.
Yeah, I'm like, y'all are cutting some people off because y'all don't want them to just be 5'8", because they've really treated you like you were short at 5'8". Like,
so imagine me,
short,
they're like, girl, and I would just have to stand so tall and wear my tallest heels, and thankfully they're like, yep, she looks long enough, they'll do. But then it's always like, they make you feel bad for it, and it's like, because I mean, I get it, like length and things like that on the runway, but also like if you're long enough, you know what I mean? Like it just never made sense to me.
Right.
I'm like, maybe I'm not tall enough, because like I always do joke about this, but I really do think that's why it is, because I have very long legs. I have a long torso. All of that is long. And so I should be tall. But I have a really tiny head and a really small, like literally my face is only this big, y'all. And so I honestly think that I'm missing. I feel like I'm missing a whole inch because of my face. What's my face got to do with my legs? You know what I mean? So it was just always a thing. But it always made me feel bad because it was like I didn't have like that self-acceptance because I wasn't the same height as all of them.
Right. And sometimes girls might, I don't know, maybe this was your experience, but sometimes girls get a little catty because like, oh, well, you're just not tall enough. Like,
something weird like that. Yeah. But also like if I was on the flip side of that for pageantry, I mean, it was the same way, but even more harsh, because it was like a very competitive, so it's like whenever I did Miss Florida USA, I'll never forget like going there, we were there for a week. Okay. And we were in 6-inch heels from sun up to sundown every single day for like a solid week.
Dang.
It was like, maybe not a solid week, maybe it was like 5 days, but it was hell. Okay. So by the time it was competition day, we were so exhausted. We had blisters everywhere. Like we were in so much pain. They barely fed us. We ate, like you said, rabbit food every single day. Like,
and you just perform like really well by the end of it.
Yes. And then they want you to put on your best for the entire world, mind you. Because I will say, like, back then, like, Miss Florida USA was streamed in like 56 countries.
Yeah.
Now it's probably all of them.
Right.
But like then it was like
plus YouTube.
Yeah. And it's fun fact, it was actually like the day of the pageant was the first time I had ever drank a 5-hour energy. But I was like, look, I gotta do something or I'm gonna just croak.
Right.
But even then it's like, we were exerting all of this energy all week long, nonstop, and then we were being fed lettuce. And then even roommate would get back to the room and we'd order service so fast and we'd be like scarfing it down like we've never eaten in our life.
I'm like, I need protein.
Oh no, we'd eat like sandwiches and fries and like, oh my God, we are so hungry. I also remember though, even right before we'd walk on stage, there would be girls on the ground in planks in their bikinis.
Oh my gosh.
Because they were trying to get the last minute sculpting that they possibly could on their abs. And I'm just thinking like, I don't think that's really going to work, but if it makes you feel better. But it was the mindset of you have to
give it your all.
All, even to the very last second.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow. And now I will say I competed against like 75 women and I did not place. However, I was told later on, even though I was not supposed to be told, I actually had tied for top 15 with someone else, but they chose her over me, even though we had the exact same scores, because they didn't like my bathing suit. Now, the thing is, this is another thing. I was the only one up there out of 75 women with a different kind of bathing suit on. I wore this, like, it wasn't a one-piece, but it wasn't a two-piece. I had, like, these ties on the side, and it was black, and it was very, very sleek, very pretty, very modest, but sexy, too. Because you got to think, I was 18, and a lot of these women were, like, 25.
Oh, okay.
And they looked like women. So I already felt very like out of place and stuff like that. But like I just wasn't ready to be in a bikini. But people kept telling me they're gonna knock points off for that, so they're not gonna like that swimsuit. And lo and behold, it was my doom. But it was something that I was comfortable in and wanted to do. But it was like the hate that I got for it, over a swimsuit.
Yeah.
It's wild. So then later on, a few years later, I did Miss Alabama USA. I actually wasn't going to do it anymore. And then I got invited in when I moved here. And so I was like, okay, whatever, I'll do it. Of course, I had more confidence at this time. And this is actually going to be a really funny story. So I did, because this literally just came to mind. I didn't even write this down. I just remembered it. So it's funny because, like, I've always been small, but then at the same time, you remember, like, boys who were, like 14 back in the day, like, posing in the mirror with a selfie and they had a six-pack?
Yeah.
But they had a six-pack because they were 14.
Right.
You know, so it's, like, the same with me. Like, people would always be like, wow, like, your body looks so good. And I'm like, that's just because I'm small, you know? But people thought that I did things to achieve this body.
Right.
Well, like, fun fact, when I was getting ready for Miss Alabama USA, I didn't do anything. I didn't diet. I didn't go to the gym. I just didn't do anything. You know, I was like, I'm doing this for fun. You know, whatever. And I did awesome. It was great. I felt more like a woman. It was fun. I placed top 15. It was so good. When they called my name, even for top 15, I was so beyond ecstatic. Like, I could not even tell you. Yeah. But the funny thing is, going back to what I was saying about not doing anything to prepare for it, the Pageant Planet had came out with an article about dieting for pageants, and they used my photo on it, my photo on stage in my bikini.
You're like, brought to you by
and I'm like, oh, correct. That was literally, I was like, I'm like, thanks, I'm so honored, but like, whoa, just letting y'all know, like, there was no dieting. It was, like you said, Taco Bell, like,
pizza, yeah.
So I did think that was pretty funny. But it is the stipulation behind it all. Like, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, you have to overcome these pressures because you feel like you're required to have, like, your mindset a certain way, and then, like, when you shift out of that towards self-acceptance and embracing your unique features, whereas, like, then you may have been, like, criticized for your unique features,
right?
You know, so
yeah. All right, we've kind of got a little bit into this, but it says, how did social media change the modeling landscape compared to your time? We've kind of mentioned, like, social media, I feel like definitely has helped make a lot of brands be aware that they need to have more diversity and that there's not just one set standard that needs to be looked for everywhere. Like, you can have tattoos and stuff. Because, like, it was 2010 when I got my first tattoo. And then at the point, like, she can only be, like, a suicide girl or whatever, you know? Like, very much, now I'm this, like, it was so weird. Like, you'll never be a Victoria's Secret model now. And, like, and for some reason, like, those were the goals that only people, is the only thing that people really knew. And that was,
America's Next Top Model.
Yes.
And Victoria's Secret. That's what we had to go off of.
Yeah, I was interviewed to be on America's Next Top Model, actually, which is, like, so funny. And I'm so glad I did not go on that show. There was a couple of TV shows that I almost went on, and that was one of them. And I'm so glad I did not
I'm glad you didn't either. Because, like, now whenever you look back at it, you're like, man, they would have ripped me apart.
It was so embarrassing.
You know, like they would have ripped me to shreds just for standing up there.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how, like, little old me would have done with all of that. Like, I was
destroyed,
sheltered.
like, your self-confidence.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I did go through some weird stuff, but, like, yeah, if I was that girl on that show, I don't know how I would have handled all of that. But yeah, it was like, if you weren't on America's Next Top Model, if you weren't going to be on Victoria's Secret, like, you're not a model. And that was also frustrating because it's like, there's also catalogs, there are avenues, like, there's commercials, there's other things that I could do if I wanted to, but because people made it sound like Victoria's Secret or bust, it was kind of like, well, I need to, like, kind of work to do that. And I don't know, that was, like, part of the confusion for me. I just never, like, had, like, a clear, like, what I wanted to do with that. People just kept coming to me asking me to model for them. Like, I would get booked gigs, and there was a time where, like, I finally made it to where I was like, you know, I'm not going to do this unless I'm getting paid for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so, like, I had, like, my, like, this is how, like, much you're going to pay me, or I'm not going to show up. Like, there's going to be a reason for me to do this, because I was doing 16 hours in college during the week. I had, like, 3 jobs, and then this was what I would do on the weekends. And then eventually for me, I got my camera when I was 19, and then I started taking photos. And then thankfully, like, I kind of saw that avenue as well. And so it was fun being able to be in front of the camera and behind it, because when you're working with other people and, like, I'm taking photos of them, me being in front of the camera, I can kind of figure out what to say to help them be more comfortable. Yeah, I was about to say, pose them,
if
all
you've
that
modeled
stuff
before, then you can, you know, help with the other end, which is really nice.
Right. So that was a full circle moment. Like, everything in life has a reason, and all of the people was clouding my judgment and stuff. Like, there was reasons for all of that. Like, I had to learn and grow through all of it, even the people that, like, bully you and stuff. But yeah, it was just like hard navigating that back in the day. And I'm so glad that social media, I think the people in this day and age probably have it so much worse. You know, like, I just can't imagine the amount of bullying. And then, like, now there's also, like, just the dreaded OnlyFans. Like, I guess we'll just have to say it. Like, because there's so many girls, like, get on, like, those kinds of outlets, and they think they're, like, some, like, you know, because back in our day, it was also an Instagram model kind of became a thing.
Right.
For, like, a hot second. And I just feel like that has now progressed. Like, the next level. It's like a Pokemon, and it's leveled up to OnlyFans.
Yeah, because, like, obviously on the positive side, you know, social media has revolutionized, you know, the modeling industry, like, because it's a platform, you know, for models to showcase their work and go to a global audience, you know what I mean? Not just like, oh, well, these are the models we have in our book right here, choose from them, and it's only central to this location. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I guess it's like social media really helps people who are aspiring to be models better now because they're able to put themselves out there in a global audience.
They can learn better. They can learn their makeup.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, unlike our time, you know, like, our success was relied heavily on the traditional agencies. Like, we had to get with them or nothing. And
freelance
we had to
just looked down upon.
Yes, it was looked down upon.
Freelance, people are like,
Instagram model. That's what they were thinking. And so, we had to, and then we just had to trust whatever they said. Wherever they placed us, you know, whatever they said, that's what we had to do. It didn't matter to us. Anyway, so now, like, models can cultivate their personal brands and connect with fans and, you know, secure their modeling opportunities more independently now. Right. I guess, like, that's the positive part of today's, I guess, compared to our time.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of bad. Yeah. We could probably, like, go on more and more and more, but we'll go on to the next, actually. So, can you share some specific examples of unprofessional or difficult shoots? Yeah, I have a couple of funny stories, too.
This one's going to be good.
All right, girl.
So, while most of my experience of the industry were good, were positive, I encountered a few unprofessional situations. You know, for instance, where, like, shoot conditions were not promised, like, communication was, you know, with the team was lacking, like, all those, like, things, you know, can be pretty crazy, or like, expectations were unreasonable, you know, or they want you to, like, literally be like a human Laffy Taffy, and it, like, you're in so much pain, they're like, no, like, twist your leg even more. Right. You know what I mean? And you're just like, this is literally how I break my bones. Yes. You know, but these also taught me, like, the importance of, like, professionalism and assertiveness and setting boundaries. Right. Because, like, then we didn't. We just, like, did as we were told. And we're like, I'm literally sweating because this hurts so bad, but, like, they're telling me to push more. Right. You know, so, like, some examples was, you know, one time I was really mad about this because I had prepared so long for this, and I couldn't tell anyone about it because I was under contract and all that. Well, I was working with Kid Rock. Oh, cool. And, like, again, like, we couldn't say anything, like, all that. This thing was planned months in advance. So I spent my entire day traveling to another city, you know, meeting at this hotel, like, having to be put in this vehicle and taken away somewhere where, like, you can't even tell where we're going because they don't want anyone to know, like, how to get there. Like, it is just wild, okay? Yeah. So we finally get there. You know, we are supposed to be filming with Kid Rock, and it starts pouring down rain, and so this is terrible, y'all. We were in a garage or something like that, and because it was actually like one of Kid Rock's homes, and so we're sitting in this garage, the entire cast, and it is pouring down rain, and I got stuck in the corner behind Kid Rock's chair, and he's sitting in his chair, and he's smoking back to back to back to back, and I'm just having to eat it all. Okay? I'm just having to eat this man's cigarette smokes. Yeah. You know, so I'm like, I don't care if this man is a celebrity, like, this sucks. Yeah. You know, like, it sucks so bad. And it was, like, freezing, and it was nasty. Well, anyways, we went through all of that hell just for a girl to breach the contract in a way, one of the other models, because she asked Kid Rock for a photo. So then they dismissed all of us.
Oh my gosh.
You know how mad I was? It was a whole thing, like, months of preparing, like, took us down this whole, like, I had to stand behind his cigarette smoke for, like, 4 hours. Yeah. I kid you not, just for us to be dismissed. It was awful. Yeah. And then another really bad experience that I actually kind of, like, forgot about, I just was thinking about it last night, it came to my mind. I used to work at the Atlanta Mart a lot, and I did like runway fashion shows. Well, one year I was working with this private designer, and it was just me, and that was the worst weekend of my entire life. This man, I don't even know, y'all. He was horrible. He was so horrible that all the other models who are working independently for other designers were like, I'm so sorry. Like, he's terrible. Y'all, he would not let me use the bathroom. I was not allowed to sit down even for a moment. I was on my feet for like 8 or 9 or 10 hours. Anytime I even disappeared for a second, he was hunting me down, yelling and screaming at me. I mean, it was horrific, and I had to put up with this for 3 days. Every day I went back to my hotel and I cried, and I'm like, I'm not going back tomorrow. But like us, and because of how we were and the times that we were taught, we're like, you just suck it up and do it. It doesn't matter how bad they're hurting you, how unprofessional and horrible they are. I mean, he was cussing me out
You might have
daily.
had a little hope that maybe it would be better.
Yeah, and like every day I was like, I'm gonna get up and do it again. Like, I was like, oh, and it was wretched. It was wretched. It was absolutely terrible. Like, I felt like a slave. It was really bad. That's what I felt like to him. That whole weekend was just atrocious. So those are just a little bit of like stories that, you know, because people who have never been in it think it's just all sunshine and rainbows. But
right, there's a lot of wasted time.
A lot of wasted time. I said unkept promises, or like expectations, not like unrealistic expectations or things like that. Or they say they're going to pay you X amount or whatever, and then it doesn't happen that way.
Oh my gosh, that happened to me once, but eventually we kind of made it out. But golly, it was nice though. Sometimes getting burnt and first getting started out. However, it is hard when you're young and getting burnt, and you're just like questioning, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, golly, that's crazy.
What about you? Give us some examples.
I was thinking about, like, for photo shoots, everyone, like, one time I was doing a photo shoot for a magazine, and the photographer that they told me to go to his house, because that's where his studio was, he was just not professional. And sometimes, like, thankfully I never got into a actually terrible sticky situation, but that was one of the situations that I was like, what am I doing? Like, I need a bodyguard. Like, I felt like that. Like, you're like, what if, like, you just never know what people are doing. And it was hard sometimes, like, no, is this a good opportunity or is this a bad opportunity? And of course I turned down a lot of things, but it sucked, like, when you accepted something and then it
had to see it through.
Yeah, and then it wasn't what it was supposed to be. A big waste of time where either, like, you did show up and everything might have even went great and they were giving you compliments the whole time and it was awesome, but then you get one picture back. Ugh, that was terrible.
Oh, yeah, that's always the thing.
Ugh, and I did have one photographer, it was only this one photographer that would... And he was just, like, a person that would just complain about everything. And I don't know if he thought that made him, like, cool or whatever. Like, you know...
I've run into a lot of photographers like that.
Oh, and so, like, the whole time you're in front of the camera...
Like, you're, like, walking on eggshells the entire time.
Yeah, and then, like, when you're in front of the camera and they're, like, not being encouraging, you're just, like, over it. Like, you're just, like, ready to go. You're like, okay, and, like, I don't care if these pictures are bad. It wasn't my fault. It was yours. Like, I'm over how you're making me feel right now. But, like, how you were saying, like, getting your body and, like, weird yoga poses. Like, literally, that's why I started yoga, was because sometimes in the poses, you're just like, I need to be able to do this, because I did cheerleading, so I was flexible. However, like, you do kind of lose it, obviously, if you don't keep stretching and working out at that. So, yeah, I remember there was a calendar photo shoot that I did once, and it was, like, for an aviation place, and it was like a green screen, so I had to like pretend like I was on like the airplane thing or whatever. And the way I had my body, like the way they had
me, a contortionist.
I got a like crazy cramp. I was dying. Yeah, I needed water. They weren't even giving me water. It was terrible.
Yeah, because you're a mannequin.
Yeah, for real. Oh, it was crazy. All right. What advice would you give aspiring models today?
All right. So if you are, aspiring to be a model today, I guess the only thing that I would say is to stay true to yourself. That's the main thing. That's one thing that we probably lost ourselves a lot in, back then, because we just kind of did as we were told. Prioritize your well-being, because that's really important too. Like she said, like, I wasn't even getting water, like that sounds so like small, but it was like huge, It's like you don't realize, like, people think you're going to jump in front of a camera and like click, you're done. Like, but photo shoots are usually like, you could be there for 8 hours,
yes,
and it's just constant, and you're in heels and your legs are cramping and they're shaking. It's like, good thing this isn't a video, because I'm in this pose, but my legs are like shaking because I'm holding all of my body weight up with my elbow, or something like that. So anyways, prioritize your well-being. And remember that your value extends beyond your physical appearance, because you can get so wrapped up in what everyone on the other side of the camera is saying about your physical appearance.
Right.
And it can just really weigh on, like you said, like we've ran into some grumpy photographers, and that just make you feel like you are just not worthy up there, because of whatever.
Like, how dare you even think to be in front of my camera?
Yes, like that.
And
so
you're like,
you really have to, like...
First off, y'all told me to be here. Like, what in the heck?
But I think it's also important to cultivate a social network, like educate yourself about the industry, and then always advocate for your rights and boundaries. Because like Elyse said earlier, like, I remember there was this pageant headshot photographer that everyone always went to, and he was close to me, who was in Atlanta. And so I was like, I want to go photograph with this guy or Miss Alabama, because everyone goes to him. And I had a shoot booked with him, and I was ready to go, and I was so excited and all this. And like a month before my booking, it came out that he was sleeping with every single one of the girls, their payment for him. And I was like, I'm so glad that came out a month before, because I was going to go. I'm like, he's a well-known photographer. Yeah. Like, everyone uses him.
I want to know if this is a person I'm thinking of, because I know of a photographer that was well-known, and one of my friends went to work for him, and she discovered a bunch of files of bad stuff that the girls probably did not even know was being taken.
They didn't even know it was being taken, yep.
Yeah.
I'll tell you his name afterwards. But yes, and then also embracing your diversity and inclusivity, because that's something that, like, is so beautiful today. Like you said, like, it's not just like your different heritages, backgrounds, skin tones. Like, it's also like having scars and freckles and moles and like all the things that make us unique and beautiful. So just embracing those, and don't ever compromise on your authenticity for the sake of fitting a mold. So that would be my advice for aspiring models today.
Yeah.
And what would you say to people today who are trying to aspire to be a model?
Basically mirroring kind of almost the same thing, but I would like for others to empower themselves and embrace their bodies. Also, outside of just modeling, but like when you're young, I also, because like I was part of the itty bitty titty committee, and like people just like trying to make you feel like that's your worth. Like, I would think I need, I gotta save up like $2,000 so I can do this. And it wasn't because I even wanted it. And like, I love my natural body, but I was told by certain people that like it wasn't good enough. So then I was thinking, well, maybe if I did just do this, maybe I would, like, maybe that would be the one thing that would like really push me forward. And anyways, like, just embrace and love your body, like get in front of the mirror, really like get to know yourself, and be clear about your boundaries again, and avoid compromising your values, just because like it is like most people get into modeling early on. That was something else. Like in college, I remember being 20 years old, and one of my college professors, because we had to do like this resume building exercise, and like Abercrombie was on there, because like I was actively working at Abercrombie, and my job title was model, and like I had some other, like I was like a promo model for a company. It was a couple of companies, but anyway, so I had that stuff on there because like that was work. And he was like, you're like basically a grandma, and like he was telling me I was like too old to be a model at just 20 years old. So that, like, most of the time when you're starting out modeling, you're trying to like figure out what you're doing in life. So just to like sit down and like really figure out like your character, what is important to you, especially in this day and age. Like, this world can be a little confusing at times, but there are people out there that do see and have the same values as you. And the good thing about social media is you can find that niche, or maybe it is a good group, huge community, whatever. But just don't go back on those values, like those, like, core values. Because I also remember, like, something that stuck me when I was an early model. It was like, I think it was even Tyra Banks. She was like, on portfolio, you can write like, will not be posed with cigarettes, like will not pose nude, like those things on the outside, and like stick with those. And even they're gonna try to make you, they're going to throw money at you. They're going to do these things. And if that's not what you want to do, just remind yourself that you wrote that down because that was what you did not want to do. And don't let someone try to sway you for something cheap. Because at the end of the day, like, who cares how much money you might get off of something that really, that compromises your character?
Yeah. That's a good point. So figure out what you're going to say no to and what you're going to say yes to, and stick with those.
Yeah. And then if you feel like changing, if you feel like, if at one time you did say no and you want to say yes, I feel like just sit and really figure out why you want to say yes. And hopefully it's not just for money, you know, because money is the root of all evil. So if that's your main reason to do something, maybe we need to think about other avenues to get said money. But anyway, all right. Yeah, there's modeling your feet. No, I'm just kidding. Sometimes
you didn't hear that from us.
Yeah, go crazy with the feet. Anyway. All right, so how did modeling contribute to your personal and professional growth?
All right, so modeling played a pretty significant role, I guess, in my personal and professional growth. It helped me foster self-confidence. That was a big thing for me. Like I said, I was scared to death whenever I had to hop on that stage at 18 years old for Miss Florida USA. Because whenever I first walked in to meet all the ladies, I mean, they looked like beautiful 25-year-old Cuban women. I mean, they were absolutely stunning. And then there was, yes, exactly, like Latina women. I mean, they looked like women. Like they were 25, but they looked 30, like in the good way. You know what I mean? Like I'm 30 now, and like 31, and like I feel the best I've ever felt. That's how they looked. Okay, yeah. Like 23 to 25 years old. And so little old 18-year-old me with like bleach blonde white hair and like skinny mini, like, whenever I stepped out there on that stage, like, it was just amazing. Like, it didn't matter anymore, because it just gave me that self-confidence. It was funny because, like, when they did crowning, and I'm on national TV, I am bawling my eyes out. Aww. And I'm up there, and all the ladies are, like, composed, and I am just a whole mess. I mean, I remember one of my friends standing in front of me, and she's looking at me like, and I am just, and I had on this makeup back then. They used to make us wear this specific foundation, and it was like a high resolution, so it was like HD. It was like an HD coverage, like for TV. But the thing about it is, when it got wet, it turned blue. Oh no! And so I was bawling, and all of this was blue. It was so bad, but still helped me gain like a lot of self-confidence, because like even though I was 18 and I felt minority, like I did it. And then, you know, same thing with modeling. It's like when there's just like nothing better in the modeling world than whenever you're up there, you know, behind or in front of the camera, and whoever's behind the camera is like, yes, 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 yes. Right. And they're like, girl, you should be in New York. Right. Like the last modeling gig that I did, I work with him quite a lot, and I love him. Shout out to Michael Carson. But he's always like, girl, you need to be in New York. Like, what are you doing here in Montgomery? And I'm like, I know, I have different priorities now, but like, it's just like nothing better than to like hear that. Right. Especially when you feel like you've like aged out and you're old, and they're like, no, girl, you've got it. Right. Like, you should be on a billboard, you know, and you're just like, oh. So like nothing feels better than that. But then also like on a professional, it taught me like valuable skills such as like effective communication. You know, that's so important, because a lot of people will try to, you know, let's do trades and all this stuff. But like if you have effective communication, like, okay, this is the time, the date, the location, this is how many hours you're going to be there, this is how many breaks you're going to get, this is how much you're going to get paid out, or a daily rate. Like really having like good effective communication is setting those boundaries. Time management for sure. Right. I would tell you something, like it is so crazy to me. Whenever I was in the modeling world and industry, I can't tell you how many times I was up there alone because whoever else was supposed to be with me bailed out. Oh no. And they never said anything. And it was just, or were late. Like they would come just strolling in late, haven't even had their makeup done yet. And I'm having to wait for them. So time management is so important, not only in the modeling world, but in everything else. But if you're in the modeling world, it teaches you time management so well. Sorry. There was this one girl that I just want to remind you. Yeah, like sparked a memory. Yes, this one person, every time we had fashion shows, she was always booked. She was always having like a panic attack meltdown in the bathroom because of her makeup, and just such a drama queen. And I felt like you had to show up and like you were a canvas, like there was people doing your hair and your makeup and like putting you in things. And I felt like I had no say. So yeah, you don't. And then all of a sudden here was this girl, and everyone was like, whatever she needed. Like, they were all, like, treating her like she was Kim Kardashian or something. And I was like, what is going on? Should I start acting like that? Because like I don't like my makeup either. Right. I was like, hold on. I look like a peacock.
There was one time where they like teased my hair.
Oh yeah, girl.
Felt like a peacock.
All the teeth. Oh man, the things that we have had done to our faces.
Yeah, and hair. Oh my land! I did this one hair show. It was crazy. But it was a lot of fun though. I remember like hitting my pose and everyone being like, and like that was so much fun. But my hair was ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Oh yeah, I remember. And then also like networking. It really helped me like with that because you know, I did like the hotspot thing, and like I was a marketing manager for them.
Oh, nice.
And it just really like helped with networking. So many, like there's still so many people I know today, and I know of them through whenever I was marketing managing for that. Right. So yeah, it provided me with unique opportunities to travel, collaborate with diverse creatives, and develop a strong sense of self-awareness too. You know, like now, like you were saying, like, you know, going to photographers' homes and things like that. You know, now I'm like, if I do, I'm like, this is where I'm going. This is who the photographer is. This is their location. I will check in every 30 minutes if you don't hear from it. You know what I mean? Like this is if I, you know, whatever. I just have like an emergency backup. Self-awareness, 100%. Also with people, like I said, I had booked that guy because I thought everybody saw him, but like, thank God that came out or whatever, because anyway, you just got to have self-awareness, especially today. I feel like it's even worse than it was, but overall though, it enriched my life and it helped shape me into the person I am today. So
yay. Cute. Okay, so for me, modeling contributed to my personal and professional growth because golly, I guess like listening to her, I had like so many things I was gonna say. Now I'm like, what's about to come out of my mouth? But modeling helped me because I feel like I was always like caught between two, like I'm an oxymoron. Like there's always like two parts of me. Like I'm an extroverted introvert. Same. Like there's like,
people are like, are you this or that? And I'm like, girl, I am all the things.
Yes. And like, so yeah, personally, it kind of helped me tap into my creative side because I've always been creative my whole life. Like I also was in my bedroom with my sister and my brother making fake music videos. Like
R.I.P.
doing all of the things, which I also like modeled for a music video one time, that was a lot of fun. There was a lot of things personally that modeling brought to my life that was a lot of fun. Like you said, like the people that you met. I did go on a lot of awesome trips. I remember there was this awesome, another magazine that we got to go down to Florida and they did this house for us, and man, even like that was my first time getting like spray painted with like a human while you're like sitting there naked. It was so weird.
That was so weird.
But it was a lot of fun. And but then like because I would do situations like that and then you would tell your boyfriend and he's mad because you stood in front of someone naked. Or like at fashion shows, like when you're in the back, like you're just changing.
Oh yeah, you were butt naked.
Yeah, and there are guys over there that are naked, but I'm not looking at them, and if they're looking at me, like that's not why.
Because if you take the wrong step, you're ripping the dress.
Yeah. Like, but like, and that was all like in my attitude back in the day, because a lot of people would try to say that like this is me sexualizing myself and like that kind of thing. I was always like, I'm not doing this trying to be like sexualized. Like if I'm posing in bikini, it's because I love the art too, like the artistry of it. Like I love the way that the lines, like I love that stuff. Even like I did do boudoir photography. I did do also another like music video that was like all in lingerie, because I love and appreciate that. My brain somehow, like I don't have to go all the way to naked, or like even if I do see someone naked, I really do see like the art in it. I'm not like,
I think it depends on how the photo is portrayed and taken.
Right, yeah.
I mean, like, there are so many different
situations. But there are
situations
sometimes where people can take
artistic.
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And they can try to make it into something, but yes. But yeah, and so I always felt like, I'm not trying to be that way. Like, I'm not trying to be sexy. I'm just trying to, and so it would frustrate me, and I felt like always put in a box or whatever, and like that, like the Victoria's Secret box, but then like, how dare I want to even touch that box? Like, it was so frustrating. Like, you have to,
they have lace on their underwear. How dare?
Like, yeah, and then it's this or nothing, and then if you go to do it, then why? Like,
correct.
So
then you're a Playboy bunny.
Yes.
You're like, and also like,
which
they modeled too.
Yeah, I have no, like, we have a local that did Playboy, and I would love to get her on here.
We've got to get her on here.
Talk about this again.
She would love
like a more, like a different side. And also, we will be bringing this topic back in, so if you have anything you want us to, like, dive in further. But we have a local model, and hopefully, and I'm sure she will. Like,
she will, yeah, I'm sure.
I cannot wait to talk about that, because it was really interesting seeing like her transition like back to Alabama. But yeah, anyway. So, and then professionally, like you said, networking and like being exposed. I was out professionally, like, I would go in front of a class and be so nervous. So like getting back modeling, I liked it because you didn't have to really use your voice, but just getting up in front of people and then like learning how to deal with like the industry does kind of give you a little bit more confidence. I was able to bring that into my professional world, but I will say I was like a really slow bloomer with my confidence, and I'm still working on it. But yeah, like throughout my 20s,
I don't think anyone is ever truly 100% confident.
Yeah.
So
it took me a while to like really stand up for myself and really like value and appreciate myself and really see what I'm worth. Like it was a roller coaster, but modeling did help me throughout that roller coaster. It brought me a bunch of things and made me see and learn lessons, but I'm grateful for them all. So yeah. And then how did you transition from modeling to photography? So like I said, when I was 19, I got my first digital camera. And so I started doing more photo shoots, and I had friends that did modeling and photography also. So like sometimes we would just like plan a weekend to just go out and do like editorial shoots, which was like so fun. And that was also before blogs were a big thing. I really wish that, like, I feel like if I would have known about all that stuff, like I probably would have done all that earlier, because I did, like when I was younger, I also built a website. Like me and my sister built this website. I did all of the things. I was a little girl raised in a little town that had barely 100 folks. So like, I didn't know what a blog was, and like because I loved fashion, but I also felt like I couldn't love fashion. Like I also back in my time, you wore the like Uggs, the Sophie shorts, and the t-shirts.
Hollister collared shirts.
Yeah, and like that was it. Like they all did that, and so like I would go shop at like TJ Maxx already back in the day and all that stuff, and that was so taboo. Like no one did that, yeah, right. And I felt like kind of ostracized every time I did try to be fashionable, but modeling did help me
step out of that box
and feel like I could
embrace it.
Embrace it. Yeah,
absolutely.
That word. So I liked that part. And anyway, so then getting into photography kind of fell in my lap in a way, because I feel like that's basically what I was pursuing, but I am just good in front of the camera, because not everyone knows how to pose, not everyone knows what their angles are and stuff, and it is more natural. Like I've worked with plenty of girls that were beautiful, but when they got in front of the camera, it was awkward.
Tits up,
and just not good. And then the photographer starts working with you, and they're like, "Thank you," and you're like, but yeah, so, and then since I've seen those people like modeling, and because I've modeled and I've been awkward before modeling, like that helped me transition more into photography and like get to that. And so yeah, but like I said, like if someone reaches out to me and they're like, "Hey, I want you to do like this product modeling or whatever lately," I'm like, "Yes, here's my rate sheet. When do you need me?" And that happens. And of course it's not anything I like actively pursue, but it happens every once in a while, and it's nice. Why not? So for you, how did your life transition from, I guess, pageantry and all of that?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I guess I will say it's funny because my life was headed into a direction that was stemming from my pageantry ties and modeling ties. I was going to do, I was a communications major, so I got went to school for, and then I was going to be a broadcaster of some sort, whether it was journalism. I really wanted to do sports broadcasting. That was my goal.
Cute.
I had already done the intern part of it, whereas not actually interning, but whenever I was Miss Tallahassee USA, when I had that title, I utilized that a lot in the fact of I would go out to the football practices and I would talk with the players and meet with the players and things like that, and it was my little practice of sports broadcasting. So yeah, I did that quite a lot, and that's what I really focused on, and I was gonna kind of utilize everything that I had learned within that industry and transfer it over into my future career. However, the modeling world actually opened up the door for something else, and it's what I'm doing today. So I actually have my business now because of modeling. So obviously I have a 16-year-old company. I bought it in 2020 from the previous owner. Now the previous owner found me because I was on the news modeling a clothing line.
Nice.
So literally I was, doing my modeling like I do, modeling the clothing line, on the news. She saw it and she's like, I don't know who that girl is, but like she looks just like Elsa and I need her.
No.
So she reaches out to me. I don't know how she found me. I really do not know how she found me, but she found me, and she's like, I know this is crazy, but you know, I own this company and I want you to come in if you're interested to interview with me. And I was like, okay. So I did, and then obviously the rest is history. But it was just funny that people ask, like, how did you get started with this? I'm like, well, I actually was found, you know, but it's kind of funny how like God works in like the most like mysterious ways. Because I'm like, I was for sure, you know, that I was going to do the sports broadcasting, like everything lined up that way. Like I had been practicing, I had been putting it into practice for so long, you know, with my like titles and stuff that I had, the people that I knew, you know, I knew some really higher up people in the sports industry and things like that. And it's funny because like literally one of my girls now, you know, that I was friends with, and she was a title holder with me in the same city. So like she was Miss Capital City, I was Miss Tallahassee. And we went to Miss Florida together and competed with one another. Anyways, she is now like the host of NBA TV. Like I was for sure, like, cause like that's what I was setting my life up for too, you know, kind of thing. But it's just funny how, you know, God's like, no, this is actually what you're going to do. But it still was because of modeling. I was found. So
God bless the broken road that led you straight
correct.
To
and like you would have never have thought that, you know. You would have thought that like, oh, I saw a hiring ad or something and like commented on it and applied. No, I was literally found because of modeling. So, and because back in the day, everywhere I went, people were like, you look like that.
Yeah.
You
Elsa.
look like her from that. Have you seen Frozen? And I'm like, I know. And then before they would even say it, I'm like, I know. They'd be, you look like I know. So that's literally how I was found. So
nice. Fun. All right. So Lelah's grandmother was a model, and she has some, well, how about you introduce her? And she has some like insights and stuff. So this is going to be kind of fun.
Yeah. So we talked about obviously, kind of like how things are today in the modeling world with like social media and stuff. They kind of have that on their side. And then we kind of talked about like our time era, you know, like 2008, 2011, you know, within that kind of time frame of modeling.
That awkward time
time frame. Well, we're going to pull it all the way back to the 60s. Okay. So like my grandmother, you're going to rewind, because she's always had some like great stories or whatever, but like pertaining to modeling. So one thing about my grandma was, she was like one of the head models at Gayfers. So Gayfers back in the day was Dillard's. And so she, you know, traveled around with the CEO and things like that, and she was really like the it girl. And anyway, she's got some crazy stories, but I'm going to read some of the stuff that she sent me about some of the things that she had remembered. And I love the stories. They're really cute and really fun to just, if you love history and things like that, then yeah. And then also, if you're a Patreon subscriber, then we'll give you a little bit of extra, and we'll post some, you know, photos of Elyse modeling, me modeling, some of our good shots back in the day. And then we'll also I'm going to post some photos of my Meemaw from back in the day. I've got some history, like news clipping, really cool things like that. So if you love stuff like that and you're a subscriber, it'll be fun to look at. And if you're not a subscriber yet, maybe this is what makes you subscribe, because it'll be really fun to see those cool things. So my grandma back in the day, she was paid $20 an hour in the 60s, which is a lot.
Right.
That's a really good, you know,
impressive.
she said back
especially
then.
for a woman.
Yes. She said that back then, that was a week's salary of her working at the movie theater. So if she worked the entire week at the movie theater, she could make that with a few hours of modeling work. She said she worked as, a model in a clothing store where she had to be a mannequin. So she, you know, she said that she was set up, you know, and put outside, like in the windows of the department stores, basically. And they would choose the clothes, and she was put, you know, lots of accessories, scarves, jewelry, hats, etc. She said the most fun I ever had was being a live mannequin on a platform inside of a store. And she said people had no clue she was real. She said, you know, there would be cigarette smoke in her face, because, you know, back then smoking was everywhere, and it was fine. She said lots of gossip, and I was not allowed to move.
Oh,
so could you imagine like being a mannequin
in
the middle of a store on a platform, and people are standing around smoking in your face. Like, they're gossiping. Like, I don't even want, like, I can imagine things that she heard about people, and she is not even, like, allowed to flinch.
Ugh.
You know, like, could you imagine? So she gave me a story, and she said, on one occasion, I was wearing a long peach-colored skirt and a jacket to match, a floppy-brimmed hat that hid most of my face, and, of course, my posture was rigid and my head tilted. So, like, imagine, like, and you can't move.
Ugh.
She said, I wasn't allowed to move, even one finger. All went well until a family backed into me so closely I could hear their whispers. And they said, I wonder what's under this skirt.
Oh, no.
She says, surely she wouldn't dare, but she did, and up came my skirt, and I jumped backwards. She said, the lady and her whole family screamed and went running screaming around the whole circumference of the store. Isn't that crazy?
It's also crazy that a woman did it.
Like, yeah, a woman's like, I wonder what's up that skirt. And Amigo's probably thinking, she's like, please don't, please don't, please don't. Could you imagine? Oh, and they did. They pulled her skirt up.
That's so crazy.
Oh, my God. But she said finally they came back, and we all laughed. She said, I can still hear the blood-curdling screams to this day.
Aww.
But she said, it was surprising to me that I got spoken. So I guess, like, some of the downfalls of it, like she said, it was surprising to me that I got spoken so harshly by the modeling director because I didn't wear a girdle. And she was skinny as a rail. So basically, like, she was super skinny, but they needed her skinnier, and wanted to girdle her, you know, in and things like that. She said I was handled backstage like I wasn't real. People clothed me, dressed me, took my clothes off and on as fast as possible, but I kind of get used to it. She said the runways were set up in the middle of the mall. It was fun to walk it, lights and flashing cameras, newspapers published our pictures. So yeah, I guess, like, same thing with kind of like what we had gone through too, but the same thing was going on, you know, back then. But I feel like it gets better and better with time, maybe, because you got to think like the story that I'm about to tell is the same things that we kind of went through. But like today, I feel like you could say something and be believed. Mm-hmm. Whereas back then, you know, like my grandmother in the 60s, like, you know, there was a time where she, you know, went up. She was like, I had to go all the way to the skyscraper of this building to get up to see this man. And when I got up there to interview with him, you know, she thought it was going to be like a modeling interview. And he didn't say anything except for take off your clothes so I can look at you. And she was like, no. And he's like, well, you can take off your clothes or you can not get the job. And she said, well, my husband is downstairs waiting for me. So she left and she said, I never turned back around again. So just stuff like that. But like, you know, it's like back then, though, I couldn't have said that the CEO of this major company tried to declothe her. Right. And look at her, you know, naked and stuff like that.
And yeah, also turn her down because she didn't.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just things like that, I think she kind of went through a lot. And then I contemplated telling the story or not, but I'm going to tell it because I think that it's just, like, important to, like, the realization of this stuff. Because people think that, like, you know, money is everything and, like, if I have money, then everything is going to be, you know, good and great. But, like, my grandmother, for instance, like I said, she was, like, one of the top models for Gayfers. And so they had taken her, I think it was Miami, you know, on a private jet and flew her down there. And they were having these, like, things going on and getting late. So she wanted to go back up to her room. And as she went back up to her room was, you know, adjacent to the CEO's room. And as she was trying to get into her hotel room, the CEO opens up his door and proceeds to pull her in. And she's like, right at that time, the security guard came through the elevator. But she's like, I packed up all my stuff though and left, and that was it. She's like, now if it were a different time period, could have sued the guy, you know what? She could have owned Gayfers. She could have owned Dillard's today, okay? But like because of the time period and how it was, like who would have believed her for one? Right. You know, and then it would have been like, well, what did you do? You know, to like he's a very powerful, rich man, right? You know, kind of thing. So yeah, just some of those stories that she's told me, I'm just like, wow, it's pretty crazy, but it's always been that way. I mean, like you said, like if money and power is involved, then sometimes that's what is really underneath the surface, you know, kind of things to be careful out there. So yeah, that's just some of her interesting things. I always love hearing stories like this. They're so fun. Me too. And then yeah, we will we'll post some photos for our Patreon subscribers. You can see those cool little photos of her modeling. She had sent me one and she said, can't tell how uncomfortable I am, but like we were saying earlier, she was like, but my whole leg was like twisted.
Oh,
you know, like some crazy awkward way. And she's like, I was in so much pain.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, yep, I remember those days. So like even then, you know, in the 60s, they were treating them like contortionists. So.
Right. I feel like worse than they were.
Yeah, they really treated them like, shut up, woman.
I know. And they were probably like, yes, sir. Way more than we were. We were like, wait, huh? And then now these people are like, no.
Correct, yeah.
Which I like that. That's progressive. There's,
yeah,
it
like,
has. History does repeat itself, but at least like we kind of are able to like be a little smarter. Mm-hmm. I was kind of talking to my daughter today about some stuff. I was like, because she just was like turning on the lights and everything. And I was like, okay, I want you to know God made the world and it was just like trees and bugs and like, you know, there was no houses or anything. And then he like created the first like man and woman and they all had kids and we've like been able to teach other stuff. So then we've got people that invented light and like people have been able to invent things and like we've been able to teach each other so much more and like you're gonna teach me things one day, girl, and I'm gonna be like so surprised that you're teaching me stuff. But you know, that's how we've progressed, and I feel like the world has progressed so much since like the internet. Like there has been like you know, we were slowly progressing, and then once that happened, we've like progressed so
rapid. Yeah.
Yes, and I don't know really exactly what's gonna happen, but that's why we just trust in Jesus. We don't really have to know. But anyway, all right. So we've talked about body image and self-confidence in modeling, balancing modeling with our other pursuits, challenges and difficult experiences, the importance of boundaries and self-belief, and we even had a little spotlight on Lelah's grandma. So it's been a fun little chat today.
It was fun. It was a lot of memories digging back up that one I had like forgotten about.
I know there's still so much more.
So much, and it's now that we've talked about it, like it's gonna all these things are gonna come back. Hopefully more positive than negative. But
right, I'm gonna be editing this. I'm gonna be like, man, I should have said this. But anyway, again, like we said, we'll have another episode of modeling again, probably season 2. Fun time chatting with you again, my friend.
It was, and we'll drop those pictures into Patreon for you guys to look at and tell us what your favorite one is. So.
Yeah. Thanks again for all of our subscribers and for you for listening and for being with us today. Bye.